message is hopefully getting through to them that it's not okay to sell dangerous toys, and it's not okay not to pay enough attention to whether or not the products they put on the shelves and sell to us and our families are whether or not they're safe. But it's not good enough to just trust the companies. I guess we all figured that out. You can't just trust them to do the right thing. We need some laws in place. We need some mandates to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about legislation that has been sponsored by Chairman Rush, and I'm very glad to be here today to talk about that. The CPSC is the agency in charge. I hope you were able to see some of the problems that were illustrated by the video that they produced. But the CPSC is starved for resources. I mean, they started out back in the 70s with about 1,000 people. They're down to about 400 with just many more toys, many more products that are coming in from other countries, and they have hardly any people to actually monitor the problem. So the legislation would give the CPSC more money to hire more people, to do more checks, and to be more vigilant in monitoring the marketplace. It would also reduce the amount of allowable lead in products. Right now, the current law isn't really even strong enough. It only covers paint that covers toys. It doesn't cover the actual toy itself. Like, for example, that vinyl toy, not paint is the problem. So it would not necessarily cover that. So we need stronger laws, because if we don't have laws specifically covering certain things, companies will just not do the right thing. So it would reduce the allowable lead levels in children's products. It would increase the age. Usually people think of lead as a problem with toddlers, little tiny kids are putting things in their mouth, but that's not the limit. The American Academy of Pediatrics, they said that, you can have problems, we're talking about our brains here. Children up to the age of 12 can suffer damage due to exposure to these toys. And so it raises the level, the definition for children to the age of 12, which is also appropriate because often homes with 12-year-olds have younger children. Those children love to play with their older siblings' toys, so it's important to raise the age when you're defining what a toy is for the manufacturers to know that, we're talking about up until age 12. It would require, a lot of times when these toys go out on the market, you can look at that toy, you don't know where it came from, it might say where it was made, like it might say made in China, but when it's time to say this product is recalled and it needs to come off the market, it needs to come out of your house, people can't figure out, what toy you're talking about. And sometimes it's a toy that was made at a specific date, at a specific time, and so the legislation will require packaging, where it can be done, the packaging and the product itself to say where the product was made and when the product, and when the product was made. Another problem, also pulling products off the market, certain things that are for infants, toddlers, they're called durable nursery products, things that might be around for a while, like cribs and high chairs, boosters, bath seats, strollers. The legislation would enable people to register, to say, I bought this, and let me know if you know there's a problem. Now, there's a provision in here that is really, it's a very important thing. Just generally across the board, the CPSC doesn't have enough money, but there are certain people who are more adversely affected by certain harms, preventable injuries. So basically, these are called racial disparities. There are a lot of racial disparities in the harms that befall children. And some of those are in the area of suffocating, being poisoned, and drowning. And I'll just give you an example. Some of this information has come from the American Academy of Pediatrics, some from the Center for Disease Control, that disparities, for example, drowning can be shown across Black, American Indian, Alaska Native, and Asian Pacific Islanders. So, for example, between 2000 and 2004, the fatal unintentional drowning rate for African Americans overall was 1.3 times that of whites. However, if you were a child, a Black child, between 5 and 14 years old, you were 3.2 times more likely to drown than if you're white. So, these are facts that have been out there. One study has been going on for 20 years. And so the CPSC is being asked, in the language of legislation, to look at these differences and find out why. Why is this going on? It's shocking that this has been documented by the government for this long without anybody really taking a look at it. The going to do a project, take a look at the CPSC. They're responsible for making sure that the poison-proof caps on things are responsible for pool safety. But actually, it will be another agency, the Comptroller General, who's going to do the study and let Congress tell Congress and Chairman Rush's committee what's going on here. Why are there these increased risks? How can we reduce these risks? And ideas for education and outreach to let people know. Look, apparently, a lot of the drowning of adolescent black males is happening in pools. So we want to know why and what can be done to reduce these rates of injury. And just a couple other things legislation will do that's very important. As we said, you can't just trust the companies to do the right thing. And you can't just ask them to do the right thing. It would increase the penalties. They would have to cough up more money if they violate the law. That's something that they often respond to. And also, we strengthen the criminal penalties that could be assessed against companies who are selling violent products. So, being from Consumers Union and Consumer Courts, we like to give advice to consumers. So, we came out with 12 tips for buying toys this holiday season, and I've left a pile outside the door in the back. And I'll go through them quickly. Do not buy metal jewelry, especially cheap metal jewelry. About 20% of the metal jewelry has high levels of lead. You can test toys. We've had some disagreement with federal agency, CPSC. We believe in this. We found 2 test kits that we think are effective. One is called the lead check kit, and one is the lead inspector, where it's a swipe kit. You can swipe toys that you're concerned about to see whether or not they contain lead. If there's something that you're really, really concerned about, you can just throw it out. Be careful with toys with magnets. The tiny magnets can fall out, and if a child swallows it, they can attract it to the other side of the child's intestine and cause serious damage and possibly death. Avoid no-name products. Avoid cheap products. You don't really know. They don't really have a name on it. It's not from a reputable manufacturer. Maybe we have problems with ones that you've heard of, but you should be even more concerned about no-name products. Stay away from permanent paints and markers when you're purchasing arts or craft materials. Look for water-based paints and glues, because we've kind of found out that some of the permanent paints and markers are more likely to have toxic lead. Make sure that the product you're buying is appropriate for the child, that's age of the child, because certain products are appropriate for children over 6. You don't want to have very small parts in a product that you're buying for a small child. And you can kind of do your own safety check in a store or with a toy. Kind of tug on it, check it out, see if anything comes off. And if it's very small, that's not the toy for a small child. And those are our suggestions. And if you want more information, as I said, our 12 points or 12 tips for the holidays are in the back. Thank you.
Concludes our comments by our panel. We do want to take some time for question and answers. I think that all of you, when you came in, you got a blue sheet that you can write questions on. I think that we're a cozy enough group that people just have a question they want to ask one of the panelists, Congressman Rush, myself. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.